Hello everyone, my name is Jamie Gorham. This is my Miscue analysis presentation for the Procedure 3 Miscue analysis that was done with my second student. The student is my 9-year-old son who is entering the 5th grade in this upcoming school year. He's on level for reading and no IEP or special services in any subjects. This form is the parental permission form to conduct the Procedure 3 with my student. Since the student was my child, I'm of course the one that authorized it. And I did inform him of what the procedure was and what would be asked of him so that he was prepared in advance when he agreed to do this with me. This form is the Burke Reading Inventory. It collects a bit of data on the student about their attitudes toward reading, what strategies that they are aware of that they're using, how they feel about themselves as readers. This data that we collect from these questions goes into the Burke Reading Interview data report. This report just goes over a little bit of background information about the student. He's a 9-year-old male who's entering the 5th grade. We administered the Burke Reading Interview at home in the bedroom, so there were little to no distractions. He's currently at a reading level S, according to the Fontes and Pinnell assessment. Overall, what I really got from the BRI and this student is that he's aware of his difficulty with focusing during reading. He would like to concentrate more, and he felt good as a reader overall. He's aware that he's on level, and so he believes that his reading ability is where it needs to be. However, he doesn't have a lot of interest in reading. He doesn't engage in it on his own. He will read what's expected of him, do well with it, but he never really engages in reading for enjoyment. Okay, this is the marked typescript of Strega Nona, which is the book that the student read. Here we have an uncorrected miscue where he said the word priest instead of priest. Here we have a corrected miscue where he was saying convent, convene, and then said correctly convent. I coded this YYN. Yes, it sounded like language. It was syntactically and semantically acceptable, and there was no meaning change. Here we have an uncorrected miscue where he said hair spin instead of hairpin. Yes, it sounded like language, so grammatically and semantically acceptable, but there was partial meaning change. And then a corrected miscue here where he said husband instead of husbands, but we also have an insertion here where he read the sentence, she made special potions for the girls who wanted a husband. So here, semantically and syntactically acceptable, no meaning change. Here, that shows that he was making meaning, so even though he made this insertion, he corrected it grammatically. So he's using his strategies well, predicting and making meaning. Further in the typescript here, in sentence 8, he made a complex miscue, did not for didn't, so that was coded YYN. It didn't change the meaning since the complex miscue and the expected response have the same meaning. Down here we have an uncorrected miscue where he said, oh great, instead of oh grazie. And I coded that YYN. It doesn't change the meaning, in my opinion, because oh thank you, like oh great, it's still expressing gratitude in a way. Here we have a couple of miscues. Let me get that where you can see it. In sentence 14, we have a corrected miscue. The one thing you must, he omitted the word never, but then he went back and said never do, said, and here we have an uncorrected miscue, stroga instead of strega nona. He makes this miscue several times throughout the TypeScript, and so I have put that yes, it's semantically and syntactically acceptable. It doesn't change meaning because he's identifying stroga as strega nona in the story. Here we have another omission, but it's also corrected. He does this a lot where he will skip words, but it's not always corrected. And so he also has an uncorrected miscue where he said meant instead of met. And it does make a partial change in meaning because when it's read, Big Anthony did his work and strega nona meant with the people who came to see her. It just doesn't make perfect sense. And so there's a partial meaning change there. My apologies, that was on sentence 18. I always forget that right there. And yes, that does have meaning change. Meant with people doesn't make sense, and so therefore it does change the meaning. We have a couple of repetitions where he repeated in and then in next. If we're continuing on, another omission. And this one he did not correct. And here we have again stroga instead of strega, stroga instead of strega. Like I said, he does make that miscue several times. Continuing on in the TypeScript, we have a repetition of I'm hungry. And then he says, oh, wait. So he did say, I am, oh, wait, I am hungry, and repeated that again. And it's time to sup, it's time to sup. Coded that YYN, no change to meaning. Here, he skipped this entire section of text and then went on down. And so we do have some omissions there. Here we have several miscues. We have an omission, uncorrected use of stroga nona. Then we have a repetition here for Big Anthony, repeated that. He began to say the word didn't, corrected it to because. That shows that he's using those predicting strategies, and then, you know, checking them, realizing it. So there's a lot of good self-awareness here when he's reading and self-monitoring. Then we go on, we have another omission, repeated the word priest. We have an omission, this time he did correct it. And then we have a repetition here And so it was read, and Big Anthony was angry that, and that wasn't a very good thing to be. So you can see here he's pausing, self-monitoring, making corrections. It does not change the meaning. Up here we have an omission of the word then, an omission here in sentence 38 even. Here, it was really interesting because he read sweep the house and weed the garden, feed the goat, and then he skipped all of this here. So all of that's an omission. And remember, don't touch the pasta pot. Again, he used the word stroga instead of strega. No meaning change. Here, he omitted the word inside. And then we have another uncorrected use of the word stroga. Right here, we have Big Anthony said instead of saying. I have that does not change the meaning, mostly because it's very similar, the difference only being kind of the intonation. Here we have uncorrected use of the word ah instead of aha, so that's his miscue there. And he omitted the word and again. Again, no meaning change, semantically and syntactically acceptable. Okay. Here he read this sentence, but ran home to get forks, plates, platters, anvils, omitting these two words. And miscuing. He has repetition here, no-nos. And then uncorrected, he said beginning instead of beginning. And I put that it does have a partial change of meaning. Here he repeated the word and, which was an insertion. Or he repeated Big Anthony, and he had inserted and, but corrected it. And then he said it was just Big Anthony. Down here, again, he used the word priest instead of priest. And he just separated and really stressed the syllables in this word when he said convent. There was a big kind of a pause in between, so it was convent. He miscued and said the word we and corrected it. Uncorrected, he said so shimmer down instead of simmer. Partial change in meaning. We have an omission here, and then here in sentence 58, he went outside and applauding, and he went back, he corrected it to the applauding of, and well, he skipped of, so applauding the crowd. And so he was definitely trying to make sense of all of these miscues. And so applauding, applause, it had no meaning change. It's just not going to come. Here we go. In sentence 60, we have an omission of the words the floor of. And so when he read it, it says, and pasta was pouring out of the pot all over Strega Nona's, he said floor, but then he self-corrected and he said Strega Nona's house and was coming out the door. I did put that there was a partial change in meaning, the difference being, if it's on the floor versus on the floor of Straight and Nona's house. It was just a little confusing, and so partial change in meaning there. He began to say pas, and he corrected and said pot. We have an omission here, the word on. And then he began reading at sentence 73. I pointed it out this time. I was quick enough to catch it, and so he did go back here. He omitted the word poor, but then he corrected it. Here he has a repetition, and he flipped around the words, the little filled the little, and so the way he read it was the pasta had all but the little filled house, and then he went back and he all but filled the little house. I should have marked here that he corrected that. Here we also have an omission for that. He said not, and then he corrected it back to not. No change in meaning. He said grab mattresses here instead of get. It was uncorrected, but it doesn't change meaning. Still indicating the same purpose that the author was intending there. He corrected here. He was attempting to say convene, and then he caught himself and changed it. Here an uncorrected miscue, the word if or had, Strega Nona, and then we have the insertion of have. And so we also have an omission here, poem. So this sentence, when it was final, sounded, and it certainly would have if Strega Nona had not come down the road from her visit. I put that it has no change in meaning because ultimately it's stating the same thing the author intended. The student here was just making meaning and trying to make it semantically acceptable. So he was working on grammar, so definitely they're working on his critical strategy. It's pretty strong there. Down here, he said the word grace for Patsy, and it was a partial meaning. Another omission, the word the. Here we have uncorrected stroga. Another insertion, the word for, fit for the crime. Uncorrected, he said held it out to Big Anthony instead of R. And that is all of the TypeScript, and then the codes. And then here we have the retelling guide. This retelling guide is the student retold the story in their own words. I would just check off every time we mention the characters, the setting, and then any of the events as he mentioned them, I would check them off. Using all of this data, I was able to compile these numbers to get an overall composite of his comprehension score, which was 76%. He was lacking quite a few events in his retell, even with prompting. And so while he got the main ideas and main portions, a lot of the smaller details were missing from the story. Here we have the Procedure 3 Miscue tally form. And this is where I went through and I tallied each and every miscue between what the reader said, what the text said, if it was self-corrected, if it wasn't, was there meaning change, partial change, no meaning change, with meaning change, or partial meaning change. And then it would be also coded for graphic similarity, except for omissions, insertions, and complex miscues. And so we went through and tallied up each number on each page for every single miscue. And so all of this data was used to compile this reader profile. So the procedure 3 includes a reader profile, which takes all the data from everything that's been collected and puts it together to give us, to help us run the numbers. So from the information from the type script here is comprehending in process 76% of the time. Yes, it's semantically and syntactically acceptable. No changes in meaning when he is miscuing, along with partial changes 24% of the time. He did not score any other types of sentence codings, so we have 0% there. His syntactic acceptability was 100% whenever he miscued, as well as semantic acceptability. For meaning change, 76% of his miscues had no meaning change to 24% having partial meaning change. His comprehension, again, was 76% from the retelling guide. And then the miscue tally form gives us these numbers here. So out of 49 miscues, 24% were self-corrected, 55% were uncorrected with no meaning change, 12% were uncorrected with partial meaning change, and then 6% were uncorrected with meaning change. Of those 49 miscues, 24 were coded for graphic similarity. For high graphic similarity, 79%, some graphic similarity, 8%, none is at 12%. Some things that I noted were a high number of omissions, partial changes were 24%, and a low number of self-corrections, in my opinion. I think there were times that if he was being more attentive, he could have caught himself. So all of that information from the reader's profile goes into this miscue analysis report. Here I do a summary of the procedure, and it just explains what miscue analysis is, what we did, discusses the Burke reading inventory, the taped reading, and then combining all the information and data to create the profile. And so here we have the student's literary strengths. Some things that I noted were that 70% of miscues were high level with no meaning change. His reading comprehension was 76%. Syntactic and semantic acceptability was 100%. Miscues have high graphic similarity 79% of the time, indicating an awareness of sound-symbol relationships. The student was making personal connections to the text and was drawing upon his background knowledge. His language cueing systems were in order. He makes miscues with high graphic similarity 80% of the time. Areas of need that I noted. When he did miscue, he was only self-correcting 24% of the time. His self-monitoring skills could be improved. He had difficulty recalling details from the text and missed quite a few major events from the story. Many of his miscues were omissions, indicating that he needs to attend to the text more carefully. He scored a 76% for comprehension. Again, a lot of that was just those missing events that he could have mentioned during his retell. And then he skipped sections of the text during reading. So again, just attending to the text a little bit more. My recommendations, overall, I think he's a proficient reader. He's able to recall many details in the story with prompting. He does have gaps in his retell, and so he is making predictions. So a lot of his reading strategies are well in place, and he is making use of them. He has difficulty maintaining full attention during reading, as he skipped portions of the text, and so I would encourage utilizing tracking to prevent these occurrences. So just even simple like finger tracking, or using a paper to move down so that he's making sure that he reads each line of text. I would very much encourage retrospective miscue analysis with the student to help him become more metacognitive and metalinguistic with regards to reading, really bringing it to that next level and getting him to think about why he's making those mistakes and what does he need to do to improve and how can he. I would encourage daily reading practice engagement. Again, the student doesn't like to read for enjoyment. He's just completely happy with doing the bare minimum, what's expected, and no more. But I think that more practice would really help give him the boost that he needs and really help work on those areas of need as well. I would encourage him being offered a variety of text and materials, both print and digital, in order to increase engagement. The student is a slave to technological devices. He definitely prefers to use tablets, laptops, things like that, versus a actual book. So e-readers would be great for this student. With 24% of miscues having meaning change, student 2 should be taught the what would make sense strategy when encountering unfamiliar words. So asking himself, does it make sense? If it does, he can continue on. If it doesn't, well, what would make sense? I would definitely instruct the student on how to use graphic organizers to organize thoughts, ideas, jotting down notes, things like that, just to help him with his recall and retell. I would encourage rethinking and rereading. I would discuss high-level miscues with the student, and then predicting and questioning strategies should be taught and practiced. I think it would be really beneficial for the student to pause and ask questions and make predictions and then go back and check, just so that it encourages, again, that rethinking and rereading. And then I would encourage critical conversations on literature, get the student just talking about reading and digging deeper. And so I think that those recommendations would meet the students' areas of need. And that is all. Thank you.